often spirituality is about the meaning. Like, what does it mean? People end up in this place because they're looking for more. They're looking to fill a hole or something like that. And at the end of the day, it's who you're being. Who you're being is the thing that has the most meaning. Hi guys, welcome back to the Jesse Dawson podcast. Another episode, another day, another stream. Here we are. So why are we here today? We're here because we're going to be talking about why spirituality is the reason you're successful. So if you'd seen my last video, you saw me tear it down and say why spirituality is the reason you're not successful. And now I'm going to be talking about why it is. Because there's always a flip side to the coin. But we're going to be talking about it in a different context. On that spirituality episode, we talked about manifestation, raising your vibration, and what was the other thing I talked about? Waiting for a sign. That's right. And how those things and those type of things are holding you back. That sort of magical thinking is what is holding you back from achieving success, the next level of whatever you're doing, whether it's in business or relationships or whatever. Because that type of thinking is not based in the real world, whatever that means, right? But today we're going to be talking about how spirituality can actually help you in business, how you can go to the next level, how it can help you in your relationship, how it can help you in your hobbies and in your life in general. Because spirituality, true spirituality, whatever you want to call it, and I'm sure at some point in the future I'm going to watch back in this video and think that's not true spirituality, this is true spirituality. But as it stands right now, from what I know, true spirituality has nothing to do with the external world. It's got everything to do with the internal world. It's got to do with who you are and who you're being and what that does to your life and living more of life and letting go of that control and all of those things. And that's what spirituality is. And in fact, the fact that it has a label called spirituality kind of puts a stigma on it. And it's not actually spiritual. I don't know what you want to call it, because spirituality is often related to religion and that sort of practice. Whereas the things I'm talking about in this video are not necessarily related to those practices. Sure, you can meditate. It's quite good for you. It clears the mind. It enables you to be present, and journaling is really good. You can have all those things that help you get ideas down and get them out of your head and stop cluttering the mind. Sure, absolutely. You can meditate and raise your vibration, but it doesn't necessarily do anything. So what is spirituality, and how can it be the reason you are successful? So let's start with, it's an inner game. Spirituality is about the inner game. It's about who you are. It's about the work that you do in here. The most successful people in the world have done the work. They've done the things they need to do in order to go to the next level, in order to take that next step. They didn't sit around doing nothing. They didn't sit around manifesting. They didn't sit around waiting for a sign. They said to themselves, they possibly said to themselves, what do I need to do in order to get to here, wherever here is for them? And then they took action. They took the steps. They did it. They hit hurdles along the way, because of course they did. They made mistakes. They fucked it up, and then they learned from those things. And they went back inside, and then they learned their worth. They learned how to not do it. They learned that they're resilient. They learned that they're resilient. They learned that they have tenacity, that they can keep going, that they have it in them to handle what's coming. And that's part of the spiritual journey, is that you're looking inside in order to move forward. And by not looking inside, you're actually walking backwards, because you're looking in the external world and being at the effect of the world. You're being at effect, and you're not being responsible for the things that go on in your world. And that's really toxic, really bad. It means you're not being a responsible person, and life happens to you and not for you, and you're not creating life to happen for you either. You're just letting it happen to you. You're letting life squeeze the juice out of you instead of you squeezing the juice out of life. And you're just letting it go. You're letting it fall away. You're ripe and rotting, as Tony Robbins would say. And when you do this type of work and you're at cause and you're being responsible, you're not being at effect, and you're taking responsibility for each stepping stone along the way and each mistake you make, and you learn from it and you do the work, you build up more of you become more whole as a person, more functional. And that truly is spirituality, is becoming a functional person, is being functional within the world and then passing that functionality on to the next generation. And that to me is more spiritual than manifesting my world and waving crystals above your head and opening your third eye, which is already open. So it's about who you are and who you're being and who you get to be in relation to other people, in relation to the greater collective. So if you can be the best person that you can be, then you're doing the right thing. You're on the right path and learning and growing, and it's a continuous cycle. It always goes, just like science says, energy cannot be created or destroyed, it just changes form and into different types of energy. So the energy is going to always be moving, it's always going to be growing, it's always going to be going to the next level. So if you're looking to go to the next level, look internally, don't look outside. I'm sure you've got to do things externally sometimes, but it all comes from here, it stems from here. And if you've got nothing going on in here, you've got nothing going on out here. No way. And then if you do have something going on out here and you've got nothing in here, this implodes. Eventually it falls because you cannot carry that weight eventually, and you just end up hollow and bitter and all of those things that come with that kind of behavior, and sad and depressed and like you've got nothing really, because you might have everything around you, but you may have nothing in here. And that's being spiritual, to me anyway. So the next little thing that I have to add into that is that it is who you're being. It's not what you have. And the next little thing is who you're being. Who you're being. And who you're being very much over what you have. You can have things as well, that's fine, but you need to be the person that you're being first. You need to be the being before you can have with any meaning. And often spirituality is about the meaning. Like, what does it mean? People end up in this place because they're looking for more. They're looking to fill a hole or something like that. And at the end of the day, it's who you're being. Who you're being is the thing that has the most meaning. If you can be the person that you wish you had before, and then you'd be even better than that, then great. Because you need to be somebody that deserves the things that you want on a regular basis. If you want to have a successful business or a successful relationship or a successful hobby, career, family life, whatever it is for you, if you want to have those things, you have to be the thing before you can have the thing. As an example, you can't be someone who has no financial stability and have the lifestyle of a millionaire. You just can't. You can't have the money and not be someone who can have money. You need to be someone who can hold the money and do that kind of thing, so then you can have the money. Does that make sense? Another less involved example is a bucket. You can't fill a bucket of water unless the bucket is being a bucket and has a bottom and can contain water. If the bucket has a hole in it, it's not necessarily being a bucket, it's being a funnel. So if you want to fill the bucket up with water, you can't have a hole in it. You need to have a bucket. The bucket needs to be a bucket. I trust that makes sense. And then you can fill it up with water. And anytime that bucket stops being a bucket, it's now no longer a bucket. It turns into a funnel, turns into scrap plastic, whatever it is. So same applies to life. Anything that you want, anything that you desire, you need to be the person that can handle that thing. And oftentimes, as we grow and we become more of the person and we be more of the person that deserves those things, sometimes those things that we want then drop off because it's not actually what we wanted. What we wanted is to be more of us. So, trust that makes sense. So spirituality, bringing it around again, is who you're being on a regular basis. And it's same in general in life. It's who you're being on a regular basis that means the most, that has any meaning behind it. Because if you're very inconsistent and in who you're being, if one day you're this and one day you're that and one day you're this and you're always changing, one, you don't even know who you are. You can't trust yourself, but neither can anybody else because you're not consistent. You have no consistency to who you are and who you're being and what they can expect from you. So therefore you can't be trusted. Whereas on the other side, someone who can be trusted and is consistent with what they do and who they are and what they stand for and knows themselves a little bit more, is a trustworthy person, has higher quality people around them because they can be the people they need to be around those individuals, and you have really great friendships and trusting relationships, and same with career and same with business. If you're not consistent, you don't keep showing up, you'll get fired from your job, you'll lose the business, you'll lose your relationship if you don't consistently turn up as the person you need to be within the relationship. Whew, I trust that makes sense. And another point number 3, you need to let go. That's the biggest thing, I think. You need to let go of control and control freaking. And you need to stop rebelling against control and being so loose as well. So rebelling against control is just as bad as being a control freak. The two polar opposites are the same thing. They're just as bad. They're just as involved. Oh, I hit the microphone. Ow, I hit my finger. If you love someone and you hate someone, they both have the same amount of energy regardless of what side of the scale you're on. So if you're somewhere in the middle, and then you're in a more functional place for one, but that is the only time it's different. If you love someone, you hate someone, it's the same thing. It's the same thing, the same amount of energy. You're just as invested into that thing if you hate something as if you loved it. So if you're rebelling against control and you're a rebel and you're tearing it up and you're always defying authority figures and you're creating problems in your world, maybe even you're breaking laws, you're committing crimes, maybe something like that, you are just as invested in control as the people who are trying to control. And if you're forcing someone to do that thing, you're also just as involved as the person taking it away completely, because you're actually removing other people's ability to choose. So by you being so rebellious and rebelling against everything, or being so controlling that you're forcing people to do things, or you're forcing certain things in your life, attitudes and behaviors, you're just as toxic as each other. So how about we find some middle ground here and be flexible and let go of that control, let go of the need to be right and the need to rebel, the need to defy the authorities, and don't blindly follow them either. That's not what I'm saying at all. Don't be like dogmatic and blindly follow something and be your life, because that's also just as bad as just completely disregarding it. You need to find somewhere where you can exist within you and what's good for you, and not have any sort of expectations on the world. Because when we have expectations, we can be disappointed. When we have expectations, they cannot be met. And when we have expectations, we now have rules that need to be followed to meet those expectations and those kind of things. And if the rules aren't met, you're unhappy, other people are generally unhappy, and it's not a great place to be. So bringing it back around to the spiritual point here is that you need to let go and just be. Just exist. You need to just be here, present within you, and then looking at your world and what you can control healthily and not in an unhealthy manner. And if you need to learn about what's unhealthy and healthy control, maybe do some reading and look in here. Because the only way you're going to experience more of life and the next level of your business, the next level of your relationship, the next level of your family life, your career, whatever it is, and not just stagnate on the same level and get the same results that you've always been getting and nothing changes, or drop out and find yourself in a worse position than you were before. The only way to avoid that and have this over here, the great friendships and relationships and career and business and that kind of thing, is to go to the next level and continuously grow, learn from your mistakes, and let go of the control that it has to be some way. Because the world is going to slap you in the face at some point and say, no, that's not actually how it's going to go. It's going to go like this, and you're going to have to be flexible. And then these rules and these expectations that you have and that you have on other people and everything like that are going to hit you in the face, because they're not going to work in this new environment of change and this new environment of evolution and the next level. And being spiritual is about letting go and being flexible and being more of you, and so that you can handle more of the world. And I trust that's made sense. It's a bit of a rant there. So I trust that came around full circle. And for a lot of people, this is going to be big information, and that's fine. Come back to it when you're ready. So it's who you're being on a consistent basis. It's what you're expecting or not expecting from the world, and letting go of that control, or maybe even taking back a little bit of control if you don't have enough. That's also another thing. But you need to know where you're at realistically. To know whether you need more control, you need to let go of control. So if you're on the control freaky side, obviously you've got to let go of it. If you're on the rebellious side, you need to hone yourself in and control yourself a bit more. Those kinds of things. And mainly, it's about doing what makes you happy and doing what you love and pouring that love and energy into the things that you want to do. And that is why the spiritual side in business is why you're successful. Because if you don't have any of this, well, you're pretty miserable and pretty terrible to be around, and you might not necessarily be a nice person. You may be pretty inconsistent. People don't really know what to expect around you. They might have to tread on eggshells, and you might be fighting every day for a business that doesn't really make you happy, but it just has a monetary goal that doesn't have any meaning behind it. And money can be a goal to get there, but it can't be the goal. So you can be this horrible person on this side, or you can dive into who you are, create some meaning in your life, and get behind that meaning, because that's what makes you shine. And that's real spirituality, is making you shine and being able to pass that shine on to others. And sure, there's going to be bad days. It's not all sunshine and rainbows. And that's another thing in the spiritual world. It's not all positive. Fuck that shit. Sometimes you have a bad day. Just be consistent in who you are on a regular basis. Be the person you need to be to have the life you want on a consistent basis. And that will create more meaning in your life than anything else that you could have when money is a goal, or a business is a goal, or getting married is a goal, or anything like that. When you have like those types of goals, you can often be disappointed at the end. So try and focus more on who you're being, and have a goal of being a better person, whatever that is for you. And I trust that helps out. So I think this was valuable. I don't know. I'll watch it back and see. Trust this made sense, and it wasn't over too many people's heads. And if it was, that's fine. As I said, come back to it later on. But for now, let me know what you learned. Let me know what you loved, what you hated. Comment, like, subscribe, follow, share. Share this to somebody who needs to hear this. Do one of those. Don't do nothing. Please don't do nothing. Do something. And I'll see you guys in the next episode on the Jesse Dawson podcast. Thanks for listening, and enjoy the rest of your day, your evening, your night, your morning, your sleep. And I'm finished. I'm out. I'm done.